Hello, and welcome to the Cycle Starters podcast. This podcast is made just for you if you are breaking intergenerational patterns and turning ancestral wounds into creative potential, embodied joy, and intergenerational abundance. I'm your host, Heather Rebecca Wilson, and I'm passionate about ancestral healing and growth, as well as astrology and pleasure as transformative medicine. And I'm here to help elevate your consciousness and promote joy in your life. I truly believe that everyone can become a cycle starter, reshaping their lineage and fostering growth and healing. Join me as I share enlightening insights and feature inspiring guests. We're here to support you in letting go of anything that's holding you back from your fullest expression in healing, growth, and transformation. So if you're ready to be inspired on your journey of transformation and to create a life that aligns with your true self, then you are in the right place. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and follow us on our social media platforms. And you can learn about what I do and how I can support you along your ancestral healing journey on my website, heatherrebeccawilson.com. Definitely feel free to connect with me. You can DM me any topics you want me to cover, share your takeaways, and send me a screenshot of your review, and I will send you a thank you gift. Now, let's get into it. All right. Here we go. Welcome, everybody. I am so excited to introduce my special guest today. Let me read her bio, and then we're going to get into a chat here. So, Paola K. Wong, ceremony songstress and womb movement goddess, is a mother, teacher, nurse, plant mama, medicine woman in her indigenous studies, and ceremonial songstress, facilitating female womb empowerment through holding and healing spaces. She brings her wisdom, light, and scars to all spaces she moves through as gifts to help connect with our inner child, activate our divine feminine Shakti and Yamaya energy through song and healing movement. Paola connects with the four elements of nature, our guiding ancestors, and leads from these visions and messages to hold sacred space, ceremonial empowerment, and healing. As a labor and delivery nurse and prenatal educator, Paola is a daily witness to women in their most powerful and vulnerable, life-changing, and welcoming moments to becoming a mother. She has used her personal and professional journey through the challenges of motherhood to dive deeper into her own spiritual journey. Her ancestral anchors connect Haitian, folkloric, and Afro-Cuban inspired womb dance with plants in all her ceremonies. This nurturing spirit brings great comfort to anyone going through their personal thresholds of life. And she is also the creator of Take Me to Egypt, Healing for the Healer, and is a co-creator of the Goddess Full Moon Ceremony retreats and events. Welcome, my sister.
Welcome. So good to see you, Heather.
It's so good to see you, and thank you for saying yes to doing this interview. I'm really excited for this conversation because it's been a little while since we've connected. You have an amazing workshop that we're going to talk a little bit about later inside of the Astro Ancestral Healing Collective, which is my monthly membership for female-bodied cycle breakers to alchemize deep ancestral wounds into creative potential, shifts to higher consciousness, and embody joy using astrology and pleasure as transformative medicine. And one of the perks, and there are many perks to the membership, is that each month I have a guest expert lead a fantastic live workshop. And as a member, not only do you get access to that workshop live, but you also get access to the recording, which is in a library of different amazing workshops. So Paola recorded her workshop last summer, but it is available in the resource library. So we're going to talk about that in a bit. But first, I would love to hear from you, since this is all about ancestral healing. What's
My ancestral background is of mixed blood, like we like to say. My paternal lineage is originally from Switzerland, so Helvetic ancestry. And as far as I know, as far as I've been able to research, they are tenders to the land. So farmers and gardeners, tending to all the animals and the beautiful plants that grow in Switzerland. So that's my paternal side. And my maternal side is from the island called Hispaniola, which nowadays is called Haiti. And I have ancestry there that goes back to the Taino and Arawak tribes. That is as far as I know right now in this lifetime. And so that is the ancestry that I walk with and do my best to honor both lineages. My ancestors often like to tell me what they would like to enjoy on the altar. Usually it's my Haitian side that asks me for un cafecito, and they always have to make sure it's extra sweet because I don't drink it sweet like they do. And usually when I do something with dairy, I hear kind of my Helvetic ancestors saying, hey, let me have some of that whipped cream. Or let me have a piece of that cake. And so that definitely reminds me of my grandmother's energy and frequency, just how much we spend time. It was always a nice, lovely dessert and some fresh milk or dairy from our cows from our farm. And so that is dear to my heart. And I love when they whisper those little things in my ear.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I love how connected you are to your ancestors. I mean, especially bringing up, the food, the recipes. Those are really potent forms of ancestral medicine. So, and you are a medicine woman. So we're going to talk more about that. Thank you for sharing all of those details about your ancestry. So I wanted to ask you, how did you get to this place of developing the workshop in our resource library? And so it is called Ignite Your Fire and Be in Flow with Your Inner Waters. How did you get to this place where you've developed this offering, but also how did you get to this place of sharing your unique medicine in the various ways that you do?
That's a fantastic question, Heather. Truly. I think it's not one thing that led me to this. It's a multitude of things. I find for me personally, it's a continuous healing journey. There's certain challenges you work through. I think the first one that I can remember and recall was that I've always had these dreams as a child from different places, different worlds. And I didn't really understand it. And then I went on the trip with my father to Egypt when I was 17. And that's when I had this vision, a clear vision of a different world while it was something in front of me. I was this performance happening in Luxor at a temple. And all of a sudden, the vegetation changed. It was the same place. So I felt like I was in a different timeline. And I really didn't understand it. I was confused. I was like, is this a visuary trick that they're doing? I asked my dad, can you see this? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I kind of brushed it off and it was okay. That must be, Egypt, that energy portal that helped me remember something. And that was the point when I started to research more about past lifetimes, regressions, and did different classes of past life regressions. I went to see a medium. I had a past life regression. And I saw myself in the desert. So that kind of helped me find some closure of understanding why I have some downloads or visions that come through. And that then continued out throughout my life where I was intensely immersed into spiritual practices in my late teenage years, 18, 19, 20, 21. I started dancing in a dance group where we specifically danced to the African orishas. And learned about their energies and their nature frequencies that are just surrounding us, which I really felt connected to, and I still feel very connected to nature. And we've learned about them, created our own costumes, and then danced with those energies with the intention of connecting these energies. And that's when I learned how to create an altar for the first time. My first altar was dedicated to Oshun. Didn't know too much about her, but again, my dance teacher was teaching us. And how serendipitous, I'm wearing yellow, honoring Oshun today on this call. So that was my entryway, and then continuing on taking different classes from numerology to astrology to physiognomy, where you learn study of the features. Just been very interested into this world. And then becoming a nurse and living in Switzerland, where there's a lot of healing practices still very active in everyday life. For example, herbal medicine is very common. We use that first before we use anything else. There's a lot of remedies that monks and nuns have invented that are hundreds of years old that we still use. So there's that love for the passion of understanding the power of the plants and seeing it firsthand, also working on my patients, myself, clients, and then continuing on the journey of finding alternative methods of healing was for me one of the most pivotal points in my life when I had a near-death experience when I was 23. Praise to the divine and God who was very present and said, "It's not your time yet." I think for me, the connection to the divine was really anchored at that point because I felt the divine. I was in a different space. They had to bring me back. That had this awareness of how real it is, if that makes sense, because I was able to experience so viscerally. And so I think at that point, I continued just to strengthen that connection. And some of the Western medicine really did not approve in my body. So part of the healing journey was that I was having challenging to heal with some of the things and really dove more into the holistic medicine world because that's what helped me heal better, right? I didn't have side effects or opposite effects with some of the Western medicine. So that got me deeper. And then, it fell a little bit into the background, to be transparent, with different part of my life where I was very focused on my career as a singer and a songwriter in New York and leaving my family, leaving my home and starting a new life. And also singing gave me always moments of feeling very connected with the spirituality and with the divine in a different realm. And then when I had my daughter, she's 9 years old. She just turned 9 on August 30th. That was another level of being connected to the divine. We had some medical challenges with her that really had me go into a place of pure prayer for 3 weeks when she was in the hospital and she was a baby and we were worried. And I was at a point where I was like, I'm not talking to anybody because I don't want to listen to everybody's fear. Don't want to feel coddled. I don't know. I felt this deep call from spirit. And I remember vividly in the hospital, whenever I did leave her bed in the ICU, I would be in the shower and I was singing at the top of my lungs, gospel songs, just crying, just because I was holding it down the whole time. Breastfeeding, standing up and fighting the doctors. No, you should not, you shouldn't give her breast milk. And I'm like, are you guys not clear in your mind? It's the best immunity she can get. She's fighting infection. So all these challenges and just being in this bubble with spirit. And because me and my husband isolated ourselves so much with our daughter in that time, I felt so deeply connected, and her spirit continuously talked to me. And so not to fall into this fear, right? Until my daughter one day came through my dream and she was like, "Why are you so worried? I'm in charge of this." And I was like, wow. And that was one of those moments where I could just like, okay, I have to surrender. It's not in my hands. And I got to remember who I am. I'm a miracle walking. We all are. And I feel like I gotten the gift of now 21 years to come back. This happened in 2003. I'm remembering the miracles that I already have occurred in my life and holding on to that. And I think that has been really, one of the biggest tools that have helped me to hold on whenever any challenge has happened in my life. Where you feel like I'm going through a deep portal that is really challenging me. And I think when we up level, they come like the tsunami. I usually feel them like that coming at me in my work as a labor and delivery nurse. I get to witness miracles, and the power of prayer, praying with my patients, that are also often in this place of, oh my God, especially if a baby's trying to come early. That's when I find utilizing, the connection with the divine. And sometimes I speak to them. I don't even know I'm speaking to you like this. But then I realize I step back. I was just the channel for them to hear and remember the power of what is in each one of us as women, whether it's the fear of giving birth, whether it's the fear of losing a child, and speaking to them and being there in the portal with them, of understanding where they are and reminding them of their tools, of the blessings that they have already, I'm a huge idealist. And so let's look at what the positive is, in this situation, because there always is, no matter how dark things can look. So I know that was a huge portal. And then moving forward, she was 2 years old and I was in a place where I felt like I lost myself. And if you've been in my ceremonies, you know this story. This is the one I felt most comfortable sharing initially as I was showing up and listening to Spirit to say, hey, you need to offer these spaces and hold space for us to, work through these moments of pain and suffering and healing. It's not love and light. It's always, we live in a world of portals, right? Positive and negative have to be together in order for the whole to exist. And so, having that awareness. So at that time, I felt lost. I was doing all the things that, expected of your parents, expected of the world as a woman, as a daughter, as someone who's coming from a family where my brothers were academically challenged a little bit. They were having challenges going through academics and the pressure of you need to get a degree, so I did all those things. But then I got to a place where I was, okay, I made so many people happy, but what is it that I need to be able to show up with the light inside of me, And I realized there is trend or a tendency and patterns of sacrificing and martyring yourself, and that from both lineages. I've witnessed the women doing that for the sake of their men, for the sake of the family, for the sake of prosperity, right? Or having to overcome painful abandonment, losses, things like that. And so I realized if I continue to do that, I'm going to lose myself. And there was a retreat that me and Heather actually had the opportunity to meet as well and enjoy that beautiful space together. That was the first time I decided to go on a trip solo after she was born. She was like 2.5 by that time. And a lot of obstacles. So for the ones that are listening, that are young moms that are like, oh my God, you left her at 2 years old. You went to like a 5-day trip or 6-day trip. I cannot imagine. I want you to know that is exactly what I thought. It's like my soul was doing a gasp like that. When I heard about the retreat that's in nature by a river and camping and 700 women, and we're doing ancestral skills share, and it's all about ceremony. I love sitting in ceremony, and it was just resistance there. And then a download came through, and the download was actually, I think it was a sister that shared that with me, a download she said, why don't you turn the question around and say, what would it take to make this possible? Instead of saying I can't or it's not, or, what would it take to make it possible? And then communicating with my family and my immediate circle, we came up with a plan. It worked out, and I went, and it was the beginning of me finding my way back to myself. And it's a continuous journey as a parent, as someone who's holding a lot of spaces, a lot of hats. So I'm not here to say, oh yeah, I always have myself as number one. These are layers, right? This is like layer 1 and layer 2 of saying, okay, I'm going to go and do my solo trips. I'm going to go and make sure I keep myself fully and charged up, and things happen, right? Life happens, things happen. And then you might fall off the wagon a little bit, and then, trying to be graceful with yourself and get back on it and seeing, okay, what else do I need? Okay, I've done this part now, but what does my inner child need? Or what is my soul needs to release the sacred rage or what's happening in the world? What does my soul need that needs to release? Anger, fear, pain, right? Doubt, all those things. And so it's a continuous journey. A lot of times the things that I offer are the things that I needed myself or received myself previously. And so this is me giving back what I was able to receive myself. And one of the meditations I do with Deepak Chopra, which is someone I love deeply, I love his voice, he helps me just get to that inner space, is that I nourish the universe and the universe nourishes me. And a lot of my prayers lately have been, God, show me how to serve the community. And I'm getting goosebumps as I'm saying this. Show me how to serve the community and what they need, while helping me stay on my path, in the way that you have a vision for me to be the best version of myself. So, yeah. So I think that is many different stories. I was trying to recap it in a succinct way, but yeah, that feels pretty good.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that. And you touched on a lot of things, and having attended one of your events, one of your ceremonies, I can testify to the fact that you are an incredible space holder and really, really gifted at what you do, but you do have many talents. I mean, you do so many things. You've been through so much. And I want to circle back to something you said about these patterns in your family of self-sacrifice, and martyrdom, because I want to dive deeper into your ancestral healing journey and specifically have you share a bit about the patterns or the cycles that you have been actively dissolving and breaking, because I do think it helps other people who are interested in ancestral healing but feel intimidated by it, and understandably so. I think it helps to hear each individual is doing in their own lives and in their own families, because everyone's ancestral healing journey is different. I think it helps to hear different stories. So what can you share about the patterns that you're breaking?
I'm the first one that comes up for me is education.
Mm-hmm.
Being a woman, not many in my family have a college degree. And so looping back to the martyrdom of the women in my family, my grandmother, my great grandmother, having not have had an education or a degree, forced them to do work that was not paid as well. And so they had to do multiple jobs or work at night and have many different side hustles to survive. And I think my mom wanted to study. My mom wanted to be a physician, but their family didn't have the funds because her father was killed. So growing up in a household of not having a male parent, I think is also connected to this. And so I think the initial cycle breaker is graduating and having a profession with a college degree and being able to create a life with more abundance. There's many levels of abundance, but financially, a lifestyle and a life for my family that now we don't have to worry about, can she go to school, right? We don't have to worry about, can we feed her tonight? We don't have to worry about, are we going to lose our home type of thing, or can I only send one child to school, right? Or having to cut down, or I need family members to help pay for schooling, things like that. We don't have to worry about that. Also, in my paternal side, the females don't have college degrees. Not that it's good or bad, but I think it's just important to mention understanding, when you have a farm, you need to work on the farm, things like that. So there's a challenge that has to be overcome in order to accomplish certain things. And then the other part of breaking cycles are with my daughter. I feel she is one of my biggest teachers. Very powerful energy, very confident who she is. Me and my husband both have traumas of being shut down, of expressing ourselves, our feelings, our thoughts, our opinion. Because, adults are talking or can't speak right now, or we don't want to hear your opinion type of thing. And we're working really hard on raising a daughter that is confident, who is allowed to share her mind and her thoughts and express her feelings, right? I remember, don't cry. Why are you crying? I'm going to give you a reason to cry,
Mm-hmm.
And she's very expressive with her feelings, which is a challenge as well, because we've never even experienced that. We've never seen how that looks. So I'm very happy she's so confident as who she is, and her fearlessness of, I can do anything I want, and I can approach anything I want, and another, kind of funny story was she's allowed to cry, right? She's allowed to cry. In fact, we say, I understand you're upset. And it's okay to let those feelings out, and we understand, but maybe you're upset about it, but we still don't know. But it's okay to be upset about it, right? So that is something we've been practicing with her. And she went to her grandparents one day, and she was sad. She was missing us. And she cried, and grandma was like, well, that makes me feel like you're not happy to be here. And she told her, I am happy to be here, but I'm also missing my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And she was told, you stop crying. You shouldn't be crying. And my daughter pulled me over after we picked her up, and she's like, Mom, I need to talk to you before you send me back to grandma. How, at 8 years old, right? Standing in her power and sharing her opinion. And she said, I was told I'm not allowed to cry. And I want you to tell her that I'm allowed to cry, that
Good for
I'm
her.
allowed to cry. And so we had that conversation, understanding and realizing that is going so far back. Initially, it kind of hurt me. I was like, how dare you tell my daughter that she's not allowed to cry? And then pulling back and realizing this is what she was told. This is what her grandmother was told. And out of necessity, right, as potentially our ancestors being enslaved, there was no time for emotions and feelings. It was like, we have to work. And if we're falling out of line, that potentially for them, that meant threats, pain, killing, right? And so that is this fear, and the style of being parents is being passed down, and realizing, okay, we might be the first ones who allow our child to feel the feelings. And I'm not saying we're always able to do. There are moments where, like, okay, we might go outside and take a walk, and let your feelings out. And also, it might not be appropriate to do that if you're at an event or if you're out or, in public, to go into a space where we can kind of calm down and see, okay, can we address the feelings, and then can we regulate our nervous system, so to speak, right? So yeah, that's why I'm saying I feel like she's our teacher, because she turned around and said, she needs to practice empathy. So that just gives you an
Wow.
idea of who my daughter is.
She's a powerhouse.
Powerhouse. World, get ready for her.
I mean, Mama's a powerhouse, so I'm not surprised, but that's amazing. She's wonderful. I've met her. I've had the honor and pleasure of being in her energy, and she's an absolute delight. And you guys have done a great job with her.
Thank you.
So props to you. So what would you say have been the biggest challenges in terms of breaking these cycles? I mean, I know you've already said a lot about it, but specifically, what have been those sore spots?
There's many. But to give you just a specific example right now, being someone who grew up in Switzerland, someone who was brown skin, growing up being one of the only ones in the whole school for several years, I was just the perfect person to get picked on and get bullied. And though I found my group, I found my people, it was very easy for me to get picked at. And I think we've talked about this too in one of our calls before, having like friends that were wishy-washy, meaning we're friends out of school, but in school we're acting like we're not friends, or switching up on friendship depending on like the mood or who is around, and the clickiness is something I have had to work through. And there are moments when that comes back up, and feeling like I always want to be included in things. And so I have some techniques to be able to work through it for myself. So it's personally not so much of a challenge for me anymore. Now that my daughter is also in school and has had encounters very similar to that, that's been bringing some of that back up. Like a friend who's wishy-washy, nice, and friendship is building. We even as parents are building, and then all of a sudden, I don't want to be your friend anymore. I'd be mean. How to help her navigate that without taking away the choices from her, and witnessing that is something that's part of this world, that people change their mind whether they like you, or you move away or in a different class, and people don't end up being your friends that they were before. Things like that can be a sore point and trigger, and we'll have talks and conversation. I talk to my therapist about it. And so yeah, that's something we're still working through, right? As she's growing up and having moments that can be like that sometimes. That's one of the examples. I'm very good at being grounded and calm when I keep my cup full. But if I'm very tired, my physical body is exhausted, or challenges from the outside world, like difficult day in deliveries or challenging outcomes at work, then my energy is a little bit depleted. And sometimes that's exactly the time where she wants more of me. Then little things can trigger me more. And then I can hear my mom sometimes coming out, like, rah, 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 go in your room, or we're done now talking about this type of thing. And then feeling bad about it because you just kind of blew up on someone that didn't deserve it. And you just know, I just need a nap, or I need to take a hot bath, or I need to go get a massage and tend to myself, or I need to go take a walk, be in nature. And so that is something that can trigger me, and if I'm home with my husband, we're both together, and he notices that, he's like, okay, let me take over. I see you're tapped out, or vice versa, right? Because same thing can happen to him. And because we both have Black parents, both are Caribbean, they're loud and they're in your face. So we kind of work on like, okay, let's bring it down a notch. I'll take over for a moment, we'll go take a breather type of thing, So that's helpful.
Thank you for sharing so vulnerably about the parenting journey. And I love the way you conceptualize your relationship with her, which is that she's your teacher, right? And you see her, and I think I can say this, as a young elder. I think that way. All children are young elders, and they're all gifts and teachers. So Thank you for sharing all of that. And I have so much respect and admiration for parents because it is just the hardest job in the world. I'm a bonus mom. I love it. It's a blessing in my life. And yeah, I can see, with my own partner, how challenging parenting can be. So again, props to you for getting in there. It's a whole other life adventure, right? Being a mother. So
Absolutely. But
I
also
think
beautiful, right? I think,
yeah.
I know we talked a lot about the heavy stuff, but those moments where you're out, or you do something, you spend time with them and they come around you and just give you the biggest hug and just say, I love you. You're the best mom ever. That is worth all the other stuff.
Right. That is what I hear. That is definitely what I hear. Well, so let's switch gears a little bit because you know that the Ancestral Healing Collective, in our membership, we talk a lot of astrology. So I'm a life path astrology reader. I'm obsessed. Reading charts is probably my favorite thing to do. Do you feel comfortable sharing your sun, moon, and rising sign with our viewers? So what are they?
Absolutely. I'm in love with it too. I feel they're anchors, they're kind of like the weather forecast energetically.
Mhm.
So, Sagittarius sun,
Mhm.
Cancer rising, and
Mhm.
Capricorn moon.
Okay, so fire, water, and earth. So that's a nice balance of your big three. Well, definitely Cancer rising makes perfect sense for you because you are an amazing mama. Cancer is very nurturing, very loving, very much about the family, and is also the emotional archivist of the family, I've found. And all the water signs are extremely psychic intuitive. So that makes sense that these are the glasses that you see through every day. This is your perception of the world, but it's also your divine mission. It makes perfect sense. You being a mom, this is part of your divine assignment in this life, for sure. But also creating, right, and nurturing projects, giving your energy to creative projects in addition to your family. The Sag sun sign, I love it. You're fiery, you're creative, you're a performer. I've seen you dance, I have seen you work a room, and you're amazing at that. So that makes a lot of sense. And then I love this Capricorn moon because you're very grounded and practical when it comes to your emotions. And I think the thing people don't realize necessarily about Capricorn is it's an earth sign, but it's actually a feminine sign as well. And from the waist up, Capricorn is this mountain goat that climbs the highest heights and achieves, right? Capricorn is that natural worker bee, but from the waist down, it has a fishtail. So Capricorn has an emotional side. And the moon is our emotions and our ancestral wounds. And so you are prone to burnout if you aren't doing the self-care that you talked about. And I think you spoke to that earlier, right? You feel really good when your cup is full.
Yes.
And then when your cup is not full, you really see it. You really feel it. But you're responsible. It sounds like to me that you are deeply self-responsible. And when you notice that your cup is running low, you do something to address it. And it sounds like you have a really great partnership in the sense that your partner is very in tune with your energy levels as well. And so when he senses that the cup is running dry, he could step in, right? That's partnership, right? We help each other.
Yes. That's the goal for sure,
Right? And you do the same for him.
Exactly.
So what are the other things that you do to prevent burnout? I think that that's an important thing for people to hear about because, in our culture, it's all about work, work, work. We're only in spring and summer. There's no such thing as autumn and winter. You need to produce. You don't deserve a break unless you have adrenal failure and you're in the hospital. And that's the shadow side of Capricorn, overworking, overly identifying with career and status and how much money you make and all that stuff. But yeah, how do you prevent burnout in your own life?
I schedule spa time once a month. It's like certain things I realize if I don't book them or schedule them, they don't happen, right? Because you're at home, you're like, oh, let me do a load of laundry. I see this. Now I got to move this away. Let me clean that up, right? So it's so easy to fall into that. And another practice that I've learned is when I do 2 12-hour shifts, the next day I allow myself not to be needed outside of my family. And even there, I might even say, okay, this is the day we order it, or make something out of the freezer. Yeah, call it the recovery day, understanding that being in this portal with so much high energy from fear and, oh my God, the bliss and the ecstasy and the, adrenaline and oxytocin, it's so beautiful. But when you come down, there's really a moment of, hey, I just got to veg out for a little bit, and, I am someone who likes to watch TV. I'm not someone who's going to say I'm spiritual and above all this. No, but I find things to watch that bring joy in me. I've gotten better with not always watching crime shows because part of me loved that the bad people got caught. Now I realize that there's a pattern to that of why, because I had to analyze it. Like, why do you like this? I love watching things that are like creative baking. This is a kind of a newer passion. And so we just baked a 3-tier cake for my daughter's birthday.
Ooh.
So like that, decorating with the piping.
Oh, impressive.
Yes. So I think I'm going to dive more into that. So that's one of the things I do. And I love to take quiet mornings. So as much as I can, either I get up before my daughter wakes up, which not always the best at because I do lose my sleep. But after she goes to school, I usually sit outside and get my meditation in, get the breeze in, listen to the nature, see, what spirit is asking me or sharing with me. Connection to the water is huge for me. I realize that when I'm kind of off or feel off, it's time for me to go to a body of water. So whether it's the ocean or a river or a waterfall or a creek, that is something that really connects me back to myself. And I've always been like that as a little kid. They always call me the fish because I wouldn't get out of the water or the ocean or the pool. And I do understand the fire that I have in me. So the water is a very good balance for me. And walking in nature, looking at the trees, feeling the green, and anything that reminds me of Switzerland. The green, luscious trees, the rivers, the mountains. I love Oregon for that reason. It really reminds me of home. And do my best to plan these little nature getaways every few months if I can, even if it's just for one night. Just going up to Sequoia, going up to Joshua Tree, going up to somewhere in nature. Just really remove yourself from the noise, from everything around you to be able to hear the divine connection with yourself.
Yeah, I totally hear you on getting out of LA. So both of us are on Tongva Chumash territory, by the way, also known as Los Angeles, California. So we don't live too far from one another. But definitely getting out of the city, I think, every once in a while. Well, regularly, honestly, I think is good because there are a lot of people here. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's a lot of energy and a lot of noise sometimes living in the city. So I totally hear you on getting out in nature. And that makes sense for you, especially as a Capricorn moon, just grounding, being barefoot on the grass, barefoot on the sand, that Cancer rising in you. Yes, water is going to be healing. So amazing. Thank you for sharing all of that. I think that is very helpful. And this whole piece about the recovery day is so important. I learned not too long ago that when I travel, I need to build in buffer days, right? It can't just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to take off on this day and get back, a week later and then go to work and book all these appointments and all these meetings the day after I get back. I've had to learn that I actually need a day to prep or 2 days ideally. And then I need recovery days. Like you said, I need buffer days. I need to land, right? And take a landing breath or take a few landing breaths, and center myself and then jump back into life. So I think important. That it's so important. Absolutely. And especially as a space holder, right? Because it's a tremendous responsibility to hold space for other people, right? And so really good energy management and energy hygiene is absolutely essential, I think, for the work that we do. I mean, absolutely. And a labor and delivery nurse. I mean, you are doing all the things. Well, so let's circle back to your amazing workshop that is inside of our resource library. And again, it is called the Ancestral Healing Collective monthly membership. And so your workshop is called Ignite Your Fire and Be in Flow with Your Inner Waters. And so what people can expect to get out of it is that they're going to feel a closer connection to their womb and heart centers, and you're going to activate your root chakra center with movement and sound. So what would you tell folks, and this membership and this class is for female-bodied beings, what would you tell people to do in order to get the most out of that experience?
I think one, it's nice if you have space and time. So a moment to kind of prepare your space and connecting with this is your ceremony that you allow parts of yourself to awaken or strengthen that you might have put in the back burner, especially if you're a woman or a mother, you put everybody else to the front. And so really creating a space that is just for you, to make yourself feel good. And that itself can be a radical act, right? To create that space, deciding to wear something that makes you feel divine and activated and sexy and juicy and the divine creator that you are, whether you have a womb inside you still or not, that is absolutely not important because this energy and frequency is inside of you to connect to that part to yourself. And creating space that you feel safe. So an uninterrupted space where you don't have to worry about somebody getting in your room right away. So a time block of maybe 2 hours. And I will cleanse yourself before, if you take a nice hot bath or a shower. And as you're doing that, to really let go of anything that's in the way, things that are not yours. We all pick up things that are not our own energy, things that we picked up, or energies that we left somewhere else, to call that energy back to yourself after you let go of things that don't belong to you. And it's a beautiful thing to kind of visualize the water is washing that off. And then for the ceremony itself, if you have something that you already practice with, some sacred smudging and calling in your divine guides and your higher self and your super self, right? Your super soul, if you work with and practice with that. And make the ceremony, light that candle for yourself, put that perfume on. This is your dating yourself, loving yourself, really tapping into that. If you can, have a speaker so you can make the music loud and really dance and really, if you feel like stomping, stomp. This is one way we really activate our power, all of our energetic bodies, all the way down to our physical body. And when we dance and move and celebrate ourselves, I want you to know that your ancestors, they all celebrate with you, because guess what? They have all prayed for you to be here, for every single one of us. How much did it take for any one of us to even be a little rice kernel in the mama's womb until you are this human being who you are now, and to feel that connection with all the invisible energies around you. So if you can do that for yourself, to prepare and be open-hearted and see what lands, and use discernment. I always like to say that I'm not for everybody, you're not for everybody, and if there's certain things that we're suggesting that don't feel good, hey, power to you for feeling that that's not the right thing to do for you, honoring that, and finding a way of flowing with it and doing something alternative. If you feel like you have a download, I want to add this or I want to add that, listen to that. I really encourage finding the connection to your own inner voice. And that voice is usually calm. It's not like you should and I should, and that's frantic, that's ego. But it's a calm energy and frequency. So if you feel it that way, please add your magic to the magic.
Beautiful. Thank you. I think that's really helpful. And it is a beautiful, beautiful experience. I highly encourage folks to join the membership to get access to this workshop and, the ability to watch it over and over again if necessary, because sometimes they're so powerful. You're like, I want to watch that again. I want to do that again. So that resource library is there for members only. So you can find out more about the Ancestral Healing Collective by visiting my website, heatherrebeccawilson.com, and I'll put the link in the description below. So I want to know now, Paola, what are you working on? What are your new projects that you're excited about that you can share with our viewers?
So I think the most exciting one, and I think the biggest call I've received so far from Spirit is our retreat in November to Egypt. We're heading to Kemet, which is the original name, and it's a deep calling and a love that is really challenging for me to put into words when people ask me, why do you love it so much? Why are you so drawn? There's so many things that make me feel so at home when I go and visit Egypt. And hearing the call to do these retreats once a year, where we infuse spirituality, mindful practices, but also our African ancestry. So we're bringing the prayers to Yemaya and on Enoshun, especially at the River Nile, where this river is so powerful. It keeps 7 countries alive. It's the longest river in the world. And it's been talked about in almost every sacred book that exists out in the world. And it's really the cradle of our civilization that is existing now. And you can feel it. You can feel it while you're there. You can feel it when you know it's your time to go. Our journey this year is from November 25th till the 75th, where we connect with the 1111 portal on 1129. I was told we need to adjust that portal because it's the same portal numerologically. And I'm really excited to go this year. I'm excited every year, but this year we get to venture on our own private sailboat. So this is the first time we get to actually not share our boat journey, where we're on the river now for 4 nights, and we have our own space that promotes healing. There's tea rooms, there's spaces for us to be able to do yoga on the boat, and do our womb steaming on the boat. That is a blend that we are creating for everyone that's joining us. And that's in addition to journeying through the magical lands of Egypt. So we're starting out in Cairo. We head to Luxor. We visit all the different temples. We go visit Isis Temple. We go to Nubia Town, where our indigenous people, one of the last 44 tribes that still exists there, we get to go and connect with our brown-skinned brothers and sisters in that magical portal. And I think what's also very unique and special is that we get to visit the land. We get to visit the farmers. We get to visit actually a lotus farm and see how they're tending to the land and grow the lotus flowers and harvest them. And it's really created with a lot of intentionality for all of us to be able to connect with our higher selves, with what I believe your previous lifetimes. Most people that are joining us, they feel I've been there in a different lifetime. I'm deeply connected. In fact, Egypt or different deities from the high times of Egypt are speaking to you. So when I talk with folks on the phone that are joining us, they usually tell me, oh yes, Hathor is my deity, or Anubis is, which was mine. Each trip, there is a different deity that usually comes forth. And so that's why some of the journeys get a little adjusted based on what the need is of that particular group. So Anubis, the deity of the underworld and the death portal, was the one that spoke to me first. And a lot of revelations around that energy and why he kept coming forth, because I worked closely with him in a different lifetime. And if this is something that is calling you, and you know you've always wanted to go, but you wanted to go with an intimate group, you wanted to have access to be able to meditate in these spaces, like the Sphinx, like the pyramids. We book these spaces all out for us so we can meditate privately, so we can touch these spaces, because the Egyptians know what they have. Okay, they understand these are deep portals that we can activate with song and music and sound, which is how these spaces and temples and energy portals were used. And so if you go with a group, you're not allowed to do that. And so if you rent it privately out, there's more room for us to be able to really connect deeper with these spaces and these different deities. And it's a magical journey.
It sounds incredible. And how many years have you been doing this? I'm curious. It's been a few.
This is our 4th year, our 4th journey.
Amazing. Well, I'm going on this journey at some point after I pay off the wedding. That's what we're focused on right now. But if folks want to join the retreat or learn more about it, where should they go?
Best way to go is to hop on our website, which is called everyoneneedshealing.com. which is where the entire retreat is listed, who's coming, who's holding space, photos of previous journeys. And you can also find me on TikTok under Goddess Frequency 111 Retreats. You get to see some of the videos, some of the reels, places that we visited, groups that have joined us. And if you feel like, okay, I want to book this right now, then we request that we book a call, because this is not a journey for everyone. So we do have a screening call where we talk with you. I ask similar questions that Heather asks. What's your sign? What's your numerology? What's your human design? And also where you are in your journey of your spirituality.
Right.
Because it is not a trip just to create content. It is really a trip to deepen your spiritual practices, and you would like to be part of ceremonies, and you don't have to know all the things already, but it's just this deep calling, which is what my guides have shared with me. You know exactly in your soul if this is your journey. If you feel it in your heart right now as I'm speaking, probably in your intuition. Yeah, I invite you to say, what would it take to make it happen?
I love that. Well, you're going to send me these links, so I will put them in the description below.
Okay.
And to wrap, I want to ask you this final question, and you know that this is the Cycle Starters podcast. So what cycles are you starting in your lineages?
What cycles am I starting in my lineages? There's two that come to my mind right now. The cycles that I'm starting or continuing that I've been on is to enjoy my rest and not feel guilty about it, and abundance.
Beautiful.
Yes.
I love that. Thank you. Sis, this has been amazing. I am just always impressed by you, and I love your energy, your vibe. You are just such a beautiful spirit and amazing space holder. You do so many things. Thank you for being on. Thank you for saying yes to doing this interview, and I hope that we can connect in person sometime soon.
Yes.
So this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. So everybody, we will see you next time on the Cycle Starters podcast. We'll see you later. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.